Hello, everyone. Good evening. This is Josh Burch from Toy Dump. I collect models, collect toys, build models, and I used to build toys.
Welcome back to Barlow's Boutique. I'm here with my friend Josh Burch. He is a collector, model kit painter, and builder, and he also runs Toy Dump. You might have seen him at some local conventions and conventions abroad. How you doing today?
I'm good. Glad
Cool.
we finally, after 2 or 3 years, got this a chance to get this 1 hour or whatever, to do this.
Right on, right on. I know you're super busy with conventions and whatnot, and unreliable pool men. Yeah. I guess what I want to know. I want to start from the beginning. Obviously, you're a monster kid like me. You grew up in the '70s. And that golden era of all the cool stuff on TV and everything. I just want what sparked your interest in everything fantastic?
Oh gosh. Now we're getting into the wormhole, but I would say like you, yeah, growing up, it was a completely different ball game than what it is now. I mean, on Saturday nights and even sometimes on Saturday mornings, all the Hammer films they would show back to back to back. And luckily my mom, major horror freak, so she got me into the Frankenstein, the King Kongs, the Godzillas. I mean, if it wasn't for her let me watch that stuff, I think it would have turned out way different, But I mean, yeah, back then, with the '70s, the Jawses, the all the B horror movies now, which are unbearable to watch, But back then, it was just, seriously, a
You
game
had
changer, for kids.
uh, all the stuff we had on TV: $6 Million Man, Incredible Hulk, uh, Logan's Run, uh, all those shows. And then like it seems like every time I was homesick from school, there was something on TV at noon, like The Boy Who Cried Werewolf or one of my all-time favorites, Gargoyles. It just, we had Channel 8 down here out of Carbondale, and every Friday night they would play a Abbott and Costello movie followed by a Universal monster. So that's since I was a little kid, watched the Wolfman. All of them.
I remember, well, long story short, my mom worked for Ozark Airline back then. So literally every weekend, we would fly to either Universal or Disney World for literally free, because back then, stewardesses and anyone that worked for the airline was like treated like gold. So we would go to Universal, and back then they had the back lots, with the for real Universal monster sets. And I remember, and luckily, again, my mom was a photographer. She got pictures of all this stuff. But when the trams used to run through, and the Phantom of the Opera, the Frankensteins were there, I hopped out of the tram and just went ballistic. Hugged them. All the kids are screaming, all the other kids are crying, boo hoo. And instead of kicking me out or the whole family, they took me to the back lot where they did like the makeup. Everything was like super fast, quickie makeups, but that's what kind of got me into the special effects back in the day.
Did you see the Psycho House
Oh
when you
yeah,
were young?
yeah.
Nice.
We weren't allowed to go up there, but where that empty lot with the parking, the parking lot with the hotel, because the hotel was never there. It was just the house. But yeah, we never got to go up there, But yeah, they took us like twice. I was a kid, maybe, I don't know, 8 or 9, 10 years old, and then another, couple years later. So that, yeah, it was just man, you can't buy those experiences anymore, and it's it'll stay with you forever, and luckily there's pictures, with, oh man, I love it still.
What did you start? Did you start collecting toys at an early age? And when did you become serious about it?
I wouldn't say collecting, but I definitely loved the monster toys growing up, and I would say the thing that started it all for me, I mean, I'll never forget this. First grade in Forest, Missouri, show and tell. Kid brought in all the Cantina aliens, from Star Wars, and I seen that Hammerhead figure, which now I don't know if you can see. He's, I mean, everywhere on my wall,
Oh, nice.
Yeah. So, I was 6 or 7 years old. I seen that Hammerhead figure and lost my shit. Didn't even know what Star Wars was. So my mom took me to see the movie. Yeah, again, changed your whole life, seeing Star Wars, at 7 years old, So,
Oh, yeah, for sure.
yeah, it took me to Kmart. I had to have that figure. And then from then, I realized, hey, there's toys of movies and TV shows, and then from then, all the Remco monsters, the little, because I could play with them with the little Star Wars figures, So she took me everywhere, the children's palaces, the toys, the toy chest back then, I think it was called. There's a little place in Forest Meadows, little mom and pop shop. Man, he had the coolest old school monster stuff. And man, I would just hang out at his shop like every weekend, ride my bike. Now they would just kick you out, for loitering.
Sure.
Get off my lawn,
Right.
kid. But man, I
Right.
would just sit in his store. Like that was my life, growing up. So,
Oh, that's cool.
but yeah, and then
Cool,
when I
cool.
started getting serious, I guess, probably when I had my first kid, which is 26 years ago, I was like, man, we gotta shit or get off the pot, and provide for this kid, So then we kind of snowballed into a business sort of thing.
Nice.
Yep.
Would you say you're more into model kits and stuff personally than toy collecting, or?
I would say nowadays, yes, because I pretty much have every toy I could ever want. I've collected for 30 years. I can't see me wanting anything. And for me, like my zen is building model kits, like sitting out there. My wife doesn't get it. Like I'll sit out in the studio for 10, 12, 14, 15 hours, not even blink an eye. And it's a blink of an eye because it's my zen. There's no commotion, the hustle and bustle, with the shows, the traveling, the bitching and screaming, with the collectors, on Facebook groups, So I would say nowadays at my age, man, definitely the model kits. I mean, I can't get enough of it, So
Right. That's my the last couple 3 or 4 years I've really dived into it. And I like it way more than a lot of the stuff. Like I get to the point like now I have friends like, hey, did you see the new NECA figures coming out? It's like I don't give a shit about. I
right,
mean, I do, but I don't. You know what I mean? Ninja Turtles are coming out. I was like, who gives a fuck? I'm so
right,
pissed that the NECA thing that come out looks like Chris Hemsworth. It don't look like Kurt Russell. It looks like Chris Hemsworth.
yeah,
Is there a movie coming out we don't know about?
yeah. I think there is. It's
But
like
yeah,
an animation thing, but see, I don't even pay attention. Like I rarely watch TV or movies anymore. Like for that amount of time, honest to God, I'd rather be building or painting a picture, a model kit, because I still dabble in like the painting, like the 2D stuff, the drawings, and it's all monster stuff. And but yeah, it's I mean, again, my wife. I mean, to each her own, but working Trend Masters. This is back in the late '90s. I worked at Trend Masters, a toy company, and that really got me into the model kits. For references, we had to buy model kits for references. For sculpting, painting, colors, whatever. Practice. Even, but God, I love it. The only thing now is the shelf space. Like once you build them, man, now it's like shit's on the floor, like
Do you remember the first model kit you put together?
the Hulk.
I mean, seriously.
Yeah, no,
The
seriously.
Hulk?
The Hulk Horizon kit, that was mid 90s, and I still,
Yeah, for sure.
if you got a minute, this is it right here. Like this is my kid display room. Like,
sweet.
let me see if I can. Right there.
Oh, awesome.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah, I remember seeing that kit. I think they wanted $35 for it, painted at Campus Comics in Carbondale.
Okay.
But I never pulled the trigger on it. But I remember that kit distinctly. And not too long ago, I for the singer of my band, I did the She-Hulk for his.
Oh yeah.
He bought it and gave it to me to paint for his nephew for his birthday.
Oh, okay, cool.
So that's probably the first superhero I ever painted. But it's like, that's kind of cool.
Yep. Yeah, that's what started it all. See, but even back then, $35. Golly, that was a lot. You're talking. I mean, what 20, 25 years ago for $35 making, $4 an hour. Man, you gotta work like a half a week, to buy a model kit.
Yeah, and back then especially, I had that turmoil of I collected comic books and model kits and toys and records. It's like, gosh, dang, you spread you thin,
Yeah, that's what. Gosh, with me and you, I mean, man, if we lived closer, we would like never leave each other's house. With the toy collecting, the horror. I'm into the original art. The model kits. The vinyl records. It's like, man, I could not collect everything. Like I just wanted it all. If it was cool, like the old monster iron-ons, the monster t-shirts. I mean, I freaking like anything with a monster, classic wise, I bought it, pins, buttons, posters. I mean, anything. And the cheesier the better, for me, And yeah, but yeah, it's a space issue. Golly. I mean, if you see this is like the whole wall,
Oh, crazy.
Yeah. So luckily my wife, she's like, look, I don't do drugs. I rarely drink anymore. It's like, if this is your vice, do it, it makes you happy, just,
Sure.
so she's awesome.
Yeah, I'm in the same boat, and I couldn't be happier about that.
Yeah.
There's a lot of girls. I remember back then, a lot of girls would look at you funny. Of course,
Yeah.
you add that you're in the early or late 80s, early 90s, you're a skateboarder on top of it. Yeah, they don't want to talk to you. It ain't like it is now.
Yeah. No, and that's
Yeah.
it's such a difference now because back in high school, you're talking, the 90s, where not that I would get beat up, because I was a big kid, but get made fun of, for reading comic books, for
Oh yeah.
drawing monsters, like, oh, you're a weirdo. And now it's become so mainstream where back then, we were sort of like the outcasts, and nowadays, it's like,
It's
man, you're
super
so
normal.
cool, and it's like, I'm good,
Right. It's some of these kids they'll never understand it. They'll never get it.
Yeah. See, and I think that's another thing now with, I sound like one of those old men now, like, back in my day, but the when you would go to a flea market or whatever, a show, and you would find like something you really, really, really have been looking for years, you find it, the thrill of the hunt was like 90% of the like the turn on. Where nowadays, I mean, gosh, if you want anything, 2 clicks of a button and you can find one. You hit PayPal and it's shipped to your house, and that's where 10 or 15 years ago, I guess the love of the game sort of fizzled because like the thrill of the hunt was gone. It's like, well, man,
And the price hike.
oh, that ain't no lie, and now it's so
like that Toy Hunter show.
Oh yeah.
You know the flea market they have in Belleville once a month or whatever at the fairgrounds. You go there and they got those toy hunter prices for everything. It's like,
Oh yeah,
Jesus Christ. That's why I quit going, because like you're wanting too much, and I love that show at first, but then I hated it. It's like everybody thinks they've got,
gold.
geez, yeah, right.
And then
Like before that, years before that, I went to an old antique shop and found a TIE fighter, and the woman didn't even know what it was, and I paid 50 cents for a TIE fighter, the white TIE fighter.
uh-huh.
So it's like it's that dragon that I always chase, the finding stuff, and then they're super cheap, they don't care.
Yeah.
But good luck with that now.
No, that's what it's the love of the game, for me, it's over the last 10 or 15 years, it's pretty much gone. And luckily I was able to get pretty much, besides like incredible holy grails, which nowadays I could never afford it. Even if I could, I still don't think I would buy it. There's like now with kids, and houses and mortgages, like to spend whatever, a few $1,000s on something, I got way more priorities now than a toy to just put in the case, but go
What
ahead.
are some of your grails?
Oh gosh, besides the Star Wars stuff, when we're talking monster, still all my HI carded, the old Tommyland or Tomland and Star Raiders, the little aliens, on the card,
Oh, right.
and then
Mm-hmm.
cheapy famous monsters of Filmland monsters. They're like Mego size, but they're so horrible. And I love that stuff, and now that I could never buy one. They're just thousands of dollars on the card, which again back
Right.
I could barely pay $50 for one, because I was like, man, I got a job and I got to put gas in my GTO, and
Right. Uh, I've always wanted the Clash of the Titans Kraken
oh yeah,
and Bionic Bigfoot. Those two are the ones that I would really love to have. It, man, good luck finding one for what I can afford.
yeah.
You know what I mean?
No,
Especially that Kraken. They're nuts, and that thing's silly looking to begin with, but
yeah,
it's still so awesome.
it's just and I've noticed this, because I do quite a bit of shows, probably 20, 25 shows a year. The It's come down to with like the nostalgia kids, and I don't know where these kids get their money now. It's either IT or they bought a shitload of Bitcoin and they just have a monstrous amount of money, which I could never have at like 20 years old. But it's like the Kraken, they'll see it and it's like, oh, this is the only thing I want. I'll spend whatever it is, $1,000. They're not really collectors, they just want like one cool piece, for their desk or their, job, whatever, and it's like, I can't say it's killing the market, but it's killing the real collector,
Mm-hmm. As long as you have a guy like that willing to fork over that dough, the prices will never go down.
Right. Yeah. Until the three guys have paid the $1,000 and now they're like 700, but even then I can't, gosh, I just, that's a lot of food to feed, the family,
Oh,
for a month.
so your first model kit was the Hulk. How many kits do you think you've done over the years? Thousands?
Oh no. Oh gosh, hundreds, 400 maybe, between the commissions, and the ones that I've kept, because every once in a great while, I'll do commissions, but I don't openly let people know because I do enjoy it and I don't want to like get burnt out by making it a business because I fully love it. And I really got burnt out maybe 15, 20 years ago when I did it as a job, as commissions. And then when I kind of quit, not to quit, I just got burnt out. I was like, hey, I'm done. I need a break. Oh, just do one more, just do one more, just do one more, Well, then like 20 more kits later, I was like, man, I'm really done, and it just, I don't like it to become a job, where it's like you just get burnt out. And I think that's with everything, with any job, even playing in a band, like, gosh, back in the day, when I was playing drums, it's like, all the guys, like I was getting ready to have the kid, my first kid. And oh no, man, we can do 3 more shows. Well, let's just finish this. Month out. And I'm like, well, then they book more shows. And I was like, dude, you got to find another guy. Like, I'm done. Like, I got a kid at the house, and it's, I don't want to play drums anymore. That's it.
Yeah, I get it. I'm still doing it. It's not as fun as it used to be for sure.
See, I
But
don't know how you do it. Cause I mean, man, if you're up there bouncing around and, the energy level on my end, God, I'd be dead now, and there's just, and I see some of these bands that I've seen. I mean, we're again, back in college, and they're still playing and they're just ripped. And it's like, they're 60, 65 years old, 50s. And it's like, God love you. I mean, you got the energy and the stamina. I, I,
yeah,
I hurt sometimes, man. I don't even do nothing, getting out of bed. It's like, oof.
sure. I do too.
Yeah.
My health started going down the minute I quit skateboarding. It
Oh,
started getting old. That's how it works.
yeah.
But the band stuff, I think it's bumming me more because I went back to drums because I was on guitar for
Yeah.
20 years, and it's a lot more fun to do that. It's a lot easier, and yeah, it has its moments, but it's like the travel, hanging out with my buds and traveling is probably the best part of it at this point.
Oh, yeah.
You go to the show, it's the same old stuff. You got egos and all that other bullshit that goes along with it.
Yeah.
It's like everybody's so serious about all these topics these days, and for us, it's just one big jack off session. It's like we're not here to. I don't even want to hear your preaching. I don't want to hear none of your shit. We're at a rock show. We're at a hardcore show.
Yeah.
I don't want
That's what,
to talk your bullshit.
yeah. I've noticed that too. Even, it's, the advent of the internet and stuff, especially like traveling around and do the shows, we have such a small niche of people, that we actually get along with, and travel with, share hotels, all this stuff, because I mean, any, just like back in the college days, I mean, any given time, we're out at a show. I mean, there's like 4 or 5 guys, sleeping in the room, because man, $100 a night in a hotel, sometimes it's, man, I'll sleep on the floor, and save, $150.
Right,
But yeah,
right.
it's like,
You're already out money for the table, so
yeah, but yeah, with what you said with the topics and all that, man, gosh, it's so, like you said, serious nowadays. And it's like, bro, we're at a Comic-Con, like have a beer and chill out. Like
right,
you're stressing me out. Like I just drove 14 hours, man. Like we are kick it down a notch.
for sure, 100%.
Yeah.
What do you think about this? Like, I don't think about that.
Yeah.
Shut up.
It's like, and that's what, just for my peace of mind, I had to get rid of, this was years ago, so much stuff, and including friends, on Facebook, because man, it was just nonstop. And I'm like, man, between the everything, the news, people in this barrage of just bullshit. It's like, man, I just want to look at like monster models, and how do I get to that page?
Right, right,
Yeah.
for sure.
And like pimple popping videos. Like, how do I get to that?
Oh man, how are them gross ass things so addictive? It's
They
like I want to watch this.
they're
2 hours later, I'm still watching
those
them pull larva out of a guy's ear.
yeah,
Like what
hot
the? How that?
rods. Oh, I love it.
Oh,
Those and the
good
toenail
God.
ones and the pickup truck, or no, the semi truck crashes, man. I just
Oh,
sit on the toilet, and an hour later it's like, man, I got to get off. I can't feel my leg, you know?
yeah. That's funny.
Yeah.
Uh, so you're at your shows. How speaking of assholes, how many people want to try to haggle you down, or are you okay with haggling down prices, or it just depends what it is, or
All depends on the show. And after doing this, 25, 30 years, you just got to know your market. Like you take the stuff to Chicago, people have a little bit more money. You take it to Louisville or Lexington, Kentucky, you don't bring anything expensive. You bring $5, $10, $20 stuff, and then they want to haggle, especially the Midwest, like yeah, like the oh gosh, like the Louisvilles, Knoxville, Tennessee's, Memphis, they want to haggle. So you just gotta roll with the punches, and if you want to do like a package deal, or I mean, you just can't lose money. And luckily, people are pretty cool. It's like we always try to price stuff lower than internet anyway, because my reason is if it's $100, whatever, on the internet, I price it at like 75 or something, because if you can buy it for 100 on the internet, why would I sell it for 100? There has to be some incentive
Right.
incentive to the customer to pull the trigger, because I'm here to make money.
Yeah, that's pretty rad.
Buy something. So with the $75 thing, I mean, I can't go down much, maybe $10. I mean, they can't give the stuff away because otherwise I wouldn't
Right.
do it. So, I mean,
Right.
I can't say everybody, there's definitely jack offs, but, you just tell them I'm not the guy for you. You got to walk away, find somebody else.
Right. Right.
I mean, no offense. It's
Well, I'm sure
paper and plastic.
you also deal with the person that'll come up and look and then look on their phone. It's like, I can get it for this much here. It's like,
My all depends on, again, the show, and again, you have to read your customer, but I get that all the time, but it's usually the mom and the dad, which is fine because everyone's trying to save $1. What they don't realize, especially on Amazon, if we're selling a figure, let's say from NECA, for $35, retail on those are like $30 now at the store without tax and stuff.
mm-hmm.
So we got them at 35 because we do wholesale. But when they don't realize, and they think I'm lying, is when they see it for like $14.99 on Amazon, those are bootlegs, especially if they're coming from China, and Zhuangzhong, Japan. They don't realize, like, I'm not trying to lie to you. When you get that thing, it's literally going to be in a white envelope and demolished, So I'm trying to tell you. And then after years of going to the same city, numerous people would come back and say, you were right. I'm just going to buy from you, now. So even though you lose a customer one year, you've gained their trust now for the next whatever, how many shows you go to that city,
Gotcha.
So, but yeah, you always think they're trying to, or that we're trying to get a fast one over on them. And look, I've been doing this for 30 years. The moment you start lying to people, and trying to do douchebaggy things, like, you're done. Your word of mouth is everything nowadays. Especially with, in one blitz, on a Facebook group, and say, fuck this guy, at booth X, whatever, booth 500. Don't stop it here. Then you're done. You're done for the whole show. So why ruin it over like $10 or $20? It's
Right. Right. Right.
but yeah, back to the thing with the Amazon guys. The other thing that really, 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 my pet peeve, when for the little kids, we started this about 5, 6, 7 years ago, underneath the table where kids are like almost eye level with some of this stuff. It's all junk, like $1 to $5 stuff, My Little Ponies, LOL dolls, stuff for girls, because they would come to these shows, especially the little girls, and they never had anything to buy. So we started carrying like little princess stuff, and it's turned out great. Now, like, half of our booth is like all girl stuff, because we're like one of the few people kind of took the chance, and brought girl stuff. Well,
Right.
you'll get a family, and this is one family in particular, in Memphis, Tennessee. There's like 8 of them, all rednecks, and they're all drinking beer, and those beers are like $9 a piece. And this little girl wanted like a $5 My Little Pony or something, She's like, "Oh, Daddy, can I have this?" "No, you can get that at Walmart." And I'm like, man, you're seriously going to bust your kid's balls, and break her little heart over $5? I was like, just between you guys got $75 in beer. Buy your fucking, you know, we can get this cheaper at Walmart. And man, and I straight up, I couldn't take it anymore. And I was like, so can that beer. That beer is literally $1. You just paid $9. So I gave the kid like 5 of these little My Little Ponies because, man, I really have a soft spot for the little kids, especially little girls, when they start
Right,
growing
right,
up. I'm like, oh, fuck it, just take it, just take everything. So then the dad felt like such a dick, like, oh, man. I was like, look, I'm telling you, this is a dad. If you take these kids to a Comic-Con, you're spending whatever, 30, 40, $50 for the weekend to get in. You're buying your nachos, the hot dogs, just like a ball game. If you bring the kid here and deny him a $5 toy, that kid is going to remember that for a lifetime. You can't
right.
bring him here with all these toys and dresses and hats or whatever, and tell him no. Don't bring the kid to the show because it is going to piss the kid off so much.
Right.
And, it's going to make such an impression, years on, when the kid's like 10 years old or whatever. Hey, let's go to the show. Well, why in the fuck would I want to go to the show? I couldn't give it a $5 My Little Pony. Now you're going to not
Right.
buy me $100 dress, or whatever it is, or a,
It should it should be kind of be for them anyway. The
yeah,
show should be for them.
yep, totally. Or just save the money on
I
your fucking beer and buy the kid something that he wants, or she wants. So
Right. There was a dude when I worked at Fantasy Books. There was a dude that he brought his nephew in all the time and would never buy his nephew anything, but would he'd buy stuff. I was just like, why do you keep dragging him along? Oh, I really like that. Oh, okay. I really like that. I really like that. Well, I'm getting this, and you're not getting nothing,
yeah,
and that's that. It's like you watch that a lot. It's like, geez, why are you even bringing?
yep.
They don't.
It's again with the kids, with the shows, especially with some of the vendors, that are set up next to me. Like I give away a ton of stuff to kids. And well, one, to make them happy, but I really hope, in the future, somehow, some way, that kid remembers me if I'm still alive, 10, 20 years old, and I'm still doing the shows. This kid comes around and says, hey, that guy gave me a G.I. Joe figure. He's like, I'll buy something with him. So you have to, again, everything, no matter what you do, especially with the youth, having kids or whatever, you have to invest in the kids. If not, we're fucked, like long term, just on the smallest little bullshit. I mean, to you, it's bullshit. To me, it's bullshit. But to that kid, it's a game changer.
Right.
So
Sure.
just like, I mean, back in the day when, man, I can't even remember the band, but I was a young kid, like 12, 13. And it was something stupid like Foreigner or Journey, back in the day, but man, I remember again, my mom picking me up on my shoulders, and then they brought me up on stage, and it's like, man, I was like, I'll buy your album. I don't like it, but I'll buy the album,
Right.
just because of that. So it's like
Right.
weird, like stuff you remember, it's like, you definitely remember that shit, 20, 30 years later.
Yeah. I've got to experience that a little bit with my son. I took him to see Helmet
Oh,
and pay the singer rubbed his head and talked to him, and then when we played with the Misfits hung out with my son, and Jerry only gave him chocolate chip cookies.
oh, no
It was,
kidding.
and even if he didn't quite grasp it, I was like going,
Yeah.
"This is rad as hell."
See, and that's kind of dragging my kid. Well, he's 26 now, but when I used to drag him around to the shows, I mean, gosh, he's been doing that since like 8. And all the celebrities, well, not all of them, but they would come up, say hi, talk to him, about that stuff, and about whatever it is, Godzilla's or Iron Man or whatever. And what's so awesome is the kid, they don't know who they are. Like, they're just a person being nice. And
Right. Sure.
then like the next year, once they got older, or a couple years later, they realize who they are because you see them on TV. And then they kind of put two and two together, like, oh, that guy's on TV. And I was like, well, yeah, he's an actor, or she's a actress. And they're like, oh, no kidding. So then you build up this weird relationship, pseudo relationship in these shows with these celebrities, with the celebrities, I never bother them because if I was a celebrity, the last thing I want is all these little nerds and geeks wanting to touch me, and take photos. It's like I've learned like you treat them just like a normal person, they'll be completely fine, But you start hounding them, especially off the clock, if they're out walking around shopping, you start asking them for photos, autographs, and stuff. Like, man, are you one of those guys? One of the leeches, and shit. So
Right. Did you have a booth at the last Contamination in St. Louis?
I
That's the one where they had the first night they had the Kiss tribute band play?
no, that was the last one I went was off of gosh, it was south of Lindbergh, I think, and Paul Stanley was there, or Ace Frehley or something was there, but
Ace was there, yeah.
yeah,
That was the one. That was the same show.
Was it?
Yeah, the band was called Rocket Ride. They played one of the first nights, or one of the after parties.
Nuh-uh.
Anyway, Mike Bird and myself were sitting there watching this Kiss tribute band, and Dave Naughton from American Werewolf comes in, and he had that disco hit in the 70s. So he was like, we just kind of looked over at him, and he was just checking them out and smiling. And he wasn't there 2 minutes. Some guy come up and like got in his ear. They're playing Detroit Rock City or something, and the guy's yelling in his ear, took a picture, and then you just see it, the life just drain out of his face, and he turned around after that and turned around and walked out.
No,
so you can't even enjoy the show without somebody pestering you.
Yeah, no, that sucks, man. Because they do try to go, and have fun like a normal person, but yeah, one or two douchebags, they just kill it for them, because
Sure.
Then they just go back to their hotel, and they're all miserable. Then not miserable, but you can see it. Like, I mean, I could never ever do that lifestyle, where you gotta fake being happy, smile, just, and look, hey, these Comic-Con guys, they're not the cleanest or the nicest smelling people, so when you got
you hear the stories, the nightmare stories. Linda Blair is a bitch. Yeah. Tom Savini's mean. Scott Ian's mean.
Yeah.
But I've been around all three of those people, and all of them were super nice. But at the same time, I've seen the way some people approach them.
Right.
Scott Ian was sitting there signing autographs behind Pops, happy as can be. Some big drunk dude comes up and just starts rubbing his head.
Oh,
and you can just see Scott's face, like the color just went out of his face. I was like, and I just want to say, what? That guy was huge, or I would have said, what the fuck are you doing?
Right. Yeah.
Same thing with Tom Savini.
Yeah, a lot of these people, like, I don't know, I can't call it entitlement, but they want to, I guess, get an experience from them, like, no matter what the cost, and then it's
right.
Dude, gosh, I don't know. I was always taught, you don't overstep that boundary. Like, you have to know, don't fuck it up, and that's with anything,
right.
Meeting girls or an interview, whatever, it's you got to know your place. Like, there's a time and everything, like, I would never think,
right.
like, rub a guy's head. Like, one, that's fucking weird. And I'm super
it is
weird in Germany anyway, like rubbing a sweaty guy's head, but
right. But then you hear guys like, oh, Scott Ian's a dick.
Yeah.
It's like, I've been around him half a dozen times. He's been nice as pie every time.
Yep.
But that kind of shit happens. You're not going to want to hang out with people, right. Or you're going to be standoffish.
Yeah.
The Linda Blair thing, I just couldn't get, because when I met her, she was she was so nice.
Yeah.
And I was even scared to meet her because I'd heard that stuff. And, I just told her, Exorcist, of course. I love The Exorcist, but I love pit bulls. I love what you do. And she just lit up like a Christmas tree. And it's also, they don't necessarily want to just talk about that one thing.
Right.
If you know what else they're into, like Charlie from Anthrax, I'm good buds with him, but all we talk about is toys and nerd shit.
Yeah.
If I was wanting to talk about I'm the Man all the time, I'm sure he wouldn't fucking want to give me the time of day. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
They just fucking played at the factory in St. Louis, and I messaged him from my seat. He's like, hey man, I'm so stoked tonight. Have a great show. And he goes, you're fucking here. Why didn't you say something? I was like, I didn't want to bug you.
Yeah.
He's like, come on, man, come on. And I'm like, I don't want to be that guy.
Right.
Hey, you're in town. I want a backstage pass.
Right.
Like, nah. I'll talk to you on Facebook later.
Yeah. Do your
Send
job.
you a picture
Well,
or
not your
something.
job, but don't worry about me, sort of thing. I mean, we'll catch
Right.
up later. Yeah.
Well, how many leeches do those kind of people meet in their lives?
A lot.
People just always fucking wanting something, you know?
So I'm going through this now. So there's a show in Florida called MegaCon, and I mean, it's humongous, and already, like I have not even gotten my booth placement yet, right? I've got probably 20 people hounding me because it's all sold out, and they're, oh, I didn't buy tickets in time, this and that, oh, blah, blah, can you help me out? And it's like, look, I don't own the company. Like, I get literally 3 badges. One's for me and my buddy who I stay with, down in Florida. But I've got like 20 guys now, hey, help me out, help me out. I'm like, dude, I don't want to put in the bullshit time, to try to score you a pass when I literally hear from you once a year, for this show.
Right.
So it's like, you don't
Right.
call me anytime else. You don't Facebook me unless if it's about this show. So kind of fuck off,
That's kind of lame.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure.
But
Uh,
it's like you get that, like, times that by a million, what celebrities or band guys go through, or artists, hey, draw me a free picture. And it's like, man, come on. Like, time is money, it's like if I did this for you, I would have to do it for 1,000 other people.
right. Right. And that's, hey, Charlie, listen to my band's new record.
Check out my portfolio.
No. Yeah, right?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Check my. Yeah, I had a friend that Bernie Wrightson was talking about how people always want to do a sketch for him, and he did it. I guess he did it early on, but he's like, unless it's for charity, I'm not doing no sketches for nobody no more.
Uh-huh. Yeah, luckily I got to meet him twice, and he is, I mean, between him and Mike Plug, like, just my king of the crop,
Yes.
Oh
yeah.
So I met him in Louisville in Wonderfest. Can I tell the story real quick?
I'm dying to hear it.
Okay, so
Wrightson's he's my favorite.
No, without a doubt. I mean, number one for me, and then Mike Plug, he's like a strong number two. So
Sure.
Get a chance to meet him, and for like a month, I pulled out every magazine, every poster, every trading card, every comic book that Wrightson did, and there's literally like the equivalent of like 3 long boxes of Bernie Wrightson stuff, So I get there, and this had to be like late 90s, early 2000s or something. So get there, first in line. I was like, hey, I don't expect this to be done right now, but over the course of the weekend, would you mind signing all this? Man, and Bernie Wrightson goes, do you want me to draw some pictures too? Like, kind of being sarcastic. So without even missing a beat, I'm like, oh man, I would love a zombie, a swamp thing, a Frankenstein, and whatever else you want. And Bernie Wrightson's like, okay, well, I'm going to charge you for the pictures. I was like, oh, that's fine, like totally fine. And back then they were $50. I was like,
oh wow.
Yeah, I was like, man, I got to come up with $150. Like, I literally have no money, so beg, borrowed, and stole, got the money at the show, to pay this guy off. So I met him the next day. He signed one whole full box of comics. He goes, man, I was up all night. I was like, no shit. And just dumbfounded. He goes, yeah, it'll be a while, today, because it's slow. I'll sign the rest of the stuff. But I got your sketches done already. So I was like, unbelievable, but I don't have money, and he goes, oh, that's okay. Just get me after the show. He goes, can you watch my table? I got to go pee. So I was like, sure. So I sat behind Bernie Wrightson's table it was like made her 10 minutes, right? This guy walks up, he goes, man, you do not look like Bernie Wrightson. And I was like, oh no, I'm watching his table. So Joe Jusko, Do you know who Joe Jusko is? Another
The last
Marvel.
thing,
Ah, man, he
he,
did a bunch of Marvel masterpiece, stuff back in the day. Well, anyway, Joe
okay.
Jusko was set up right next to, Bernie Wrightson, and Joe Jusko's like, man, get his portfolio, go get his folders. They're all under the table, his briefcase. That's where all the good stuff is. I was like, fuck that, man. Are you fucking crazy? That's Bernie Wrightson. He goes, come on, man. I
Yeah.
see what's in there. Like, I don't even know what's in there. And I was like, fuck it. So I took his briefcase, right? And we're going through it. And Joe Jesko's like, man, this stuff is great. So we got it like all laid out on the table. Bernie Wrightson straight up walks in from the bathroom. And I was like, he told me to do it. Like, it wasn't me. So he goes, you can pick one thing out of that briefcase. So I picked out like this huge, like, monster from the faculty, like this tentacled thing. But anyway, he wound up being just an absolute dream come true to me. So then he came back behind the table, or he came back. He goes, you can sit here for a little bit, if you want. I was like, fuck. So I sat with him for like 2 hours as he like doodled and did sketches and just talked about bullshit. How he used to, live in New York City with Jeff Jones, and Kaluta, and hanging out, with Neil Adams and shit. And how back then, they stole all of his work, and, all the DC stuff.
Oh yeah.
He used to do like newspaper article drawings, like back in the late 60s, for the Sun Coast, I think it was, New York, out in Baltimore and stuff. But yeah, then that night, bought him a beer at the bar because it was super local, hangout thing. Bought him a beer. He invited me over to the table, and we just talked about monsters and zombies, man, until probably 2 o'clock in the morning. So it was,
That is
yeah, it was absolutely, yeah, phenomenally awesome. And then, yeah, the time when I met Harryhausen, it was, God,
what?
yeah, that was another thing, in Wonderfest. Yeah, I got pictures of all this shit somewhere. But yeah, started talking to Harryhausen and had him sign a couple books, and he wouldn't sign this. It was called the Horror Anthology, from the late '70s, but Jason and the Argonauts was in there, and Clash of
Ah,
Titans and stuff. And he goes, I'm not signing this fucking book. This isn't science fiction, like because it was in a horror book, and he goes, this isn't a horror book. This is science fiction. I'm not signing this fucking book. I was like, man, I love you, dude. Yeah, so there it is. I still have
wow.
the same book unsigned, so
That's killer.
yeah, no, it was a trip, man, back in the day. Yeah, seeing all these guys.
Oh man, that would have been Wrightson. Man, I don't even know if he was ever going to be at one of the shows that I usually go to when
No,
he fell ill,
yeah,
and
yeah, then I seen
that's
him, I guess it was about 4 or 5 years ago up in Baltimore. And here's what, man, I'm gonna start crying, but I go see him in Baltimore. It was like a meet and greet, and he was with his wife. He wasn't signing, or doing signatures because, of his, cancer and all that stuff, but I went up to him and I was like, man, I'm so good to see you. It's been like 20 years, man. And the guy straight up looks up me, he's sitting down at the table. He probably weighed 110 pounds. He goes, you're that kid from Louisville. And I almost fucking cried, and he tells his wife, he goes, that kid made me sign about 600 fucking comic books, man. And I was like, no way you remember that. He goes, I will never forget that. I thought it was a joke. I was like, that is seriously funny as shit.
that is amazing.
Yeah, I mean, it was 20 something years later, and he goes, you're that kid from Louisville. I'm like, oh,
That is
yeah. So that was a treat, man.
wow. How do you follow that up?
You don't
Jesus Christ.
have a beer.
um, model kit painting. Do
Yeah.
you do airbrush? Is it all? Is it brush
Whatever.
airbrush? Yeah.
Airbrush, paint, hand paint. Sometimes I just dunk it in layer of washes. rub it off, dry brush it, and that's it.
Yeah.
Again, on me as far as the model kits, man, a lot of these guys, man, they spend so much time on a model kit, and I remember Frank Frazetta saying, like, on his paintings, he rarely spent like more than 2 days because after that, you just lose the touch, like if you rework it. So I'm always into get it, get it done off the shelf. You do something else, because a lot of these guys, they put every little dot and detail and all that stuff, which is fine. But, if these guys spend 2 or 3 days on a model kit, my thing is like quantity. Like I would rather do 5 kits instead of one because I have so many to build. And if I really took the time of 3 days per model kit, like I would be dead and still have a shitload of unbuilt models. So I want to see them realized, built up on a shelf, on the floor, on the with paint on them. So
Well, how many unfinished model kits do you have?
I think I'm down to about 50 now, 50 or 60, give or take.
Wow.
Yeah. Well, during COVID, I went through, and this was everything, my comic books, everything. I was like, look, if I can't display the stuff, I'm getting rid of the, things because it's so sad, like, especially me when I buy out collections or, people have gotten a divorce or, moved or died. And they're left with all this shit. And their family, 99% of the time, they don't fucking care about the stuff. They want it out of the house. They either want the money to sell the house and make the money. They could care less about the hobby and the love, of everything that the guy that died or whoever, left to all up to the kids. So it's like during COVID, it's like, well, I had the time, to go through everything. It's like if I can't display it, I'm getting rid of it, and if I can't build it, I'm getting rid of it because there's no sense of me dying with a couple hundred kits in a box. I mean, it's just at that point, it's a big pile of resin, that nobody gives a shit about,
Right.
when I'm dead. So,
Right. Right.
but during COVID, I think I was up to like 108 models, that I built, so a little over 100 of them built, painted, and made room for them in the house. So, but yeah, I think I'm down to like 50 now. It's a tough gig, man, too, when it's like one for me, one for you, one for me, one for you. Like the one for you is like stuff I'm selling, and it's like, nah, I kind of like that one, so let's put that back in the pile. So it's like a hoarder, of then you see all this stuff that you're going to get rid of, and it's like you're selling it. It's out of sight, out of mind. You can't do anything about it. So it's like if I don't sell this now, I'm going to be stuck with this shit forever.
Right. Sure.
So,
Yeah. I'm not big on selling stuff. That's for sure.
and that's what me neither. I mean, especially stuff I like. I mean, I buy stuff all the time to flip it, but it's a job, and unfortunately
On,
after
on
30.
the other hand, I have been known to get drunk and give stuff away.
Oh yeah. And that's probably my most vulnerable time, especially back in, the days when I did, drink a lot of beer, when someone come over, oh man, I really like that. It's like, fucking take it, and it's like, then the next day, it's like, man, I shouldn't have given that away.
Sure.
But
Yep.
on the same time, I've given away a lot of stuff where I'm glad I did, and they were willing to take it, sort of thing. So
Right. Well, there's sometimes like you have something for so long, you've enjoyed it, and then it's like, somebody else will like it, somebody else will enjoy it. You know
yeah,
what I mean?
well, that's what I'm kind of getting to. I don't know. I mean, once you hit 50 or 50 plus, you really start looking like outlook of life sort of stuff, and it's like especially with people that don't have a lot, or can't afford this, it's like, man, I'll give it to them because knock on wood, I've done well, and now it's like a chance to like give back, sort of thing. Like even like the volunteer stuff, or teaching classes, like airbrushing and stuff.
Right.
It's like I think I could die tomorrow and I'm completely fine with the life I've lived, and my kids are good. They got a good head on their shoulders, sort of thing. So it's like it's one of those diatribes. It's like I would hate to die, but if I did, I have zero regrets. I've always wanted,
Right.
To make a band CD, which was a cassette tape, shitty band, but I did it. I always wanted to do the
Yep.
home run record. In softball. I did that. So it's like stupid stuff like that, man. It's like yeah, I'm good. I'm good where I am.
Right.
So
I also like whenever I had friends starting to get into collecting and stuff, it was they're you see the fire in their eye about, oh, this is gonna be awesome, and it's like, yeah, well, here, have this.
yeah.
My friend John, he started collecting VHS tapes,
Okay.
and he's like, you got any VHS tapes? I was like, I got a ton of them. He's like, come over, I'll hook you up. I gave him a whole box of them, and that was a situation where I was like, who collects VHS tapes?
Right.
I gave him the tapes, he left, and then it was like maybe a couple weeks later, I just had the worst regret. Like all my Romero, I gave him my Romero Zombie, Dawn, Day, and Night of Living Dead. I just, a
Nope,
bunch of stuff, because like he's starting out collecting. Like, well, this would be awesome for your collection. I didn't realize how much they were going for.
yeah.
And then it was just a nostalgia. Like, I remember when I bought Day of the Dead on VHS and brought it home, and my mind was just destroyed. But it's all up here, I guess.
The only thing is that now, if you get rid of the stuff, you can easily replace it something else. So you just got to fill the spot up so you forget it.
Sure,
So,
sure.
But man, the days of VHS though, because I remember the first, like, when I got my card, it was at Schnucks grocery store, and the first VHS tape was Pumpkinhead, and I was like, you know what? I'm going to eat the $5 lost tape fee because I'm keeping this fucking movie, But I'll
Yep.
never forget that, And I think I still got that thing somewhere because they
My all-time favorite.
Huh?
It's one of my all-time favorites for sure.
Yeah. Well, I heard they're remaking that too. I was like, oh, why are you doing that? But that's with everything.
Well, 80% of it will depend on what they do with Pumpkinhead.
Yeah.
They use those old molds, I might be okay with it.
Yeah.
They CGI it like some of the sequels. It's like, Jesus Christ.
Right. I think enough.
Yeah, that's with everything.
You always think about the remakes, like what would that could stand from a remake nowadays. I think Rawhead Rex would be, instead of, because I think back then they only had like 3 masks, the open mouth, the closed, and like the mid mouth.
Right.
But if they really kept the design, but like an animatronic costume, like that big 10-foot hulking thing, I think would be fantastic, But
Oh, man. One of my favorites.
yeah,
A lot of people's like, that's the dumbest thing ever. It's like, well, I saw it at the right time, right age, and I'll die on that hill. I love that movie.
see, that's what we were. I think it was a show up in New York that came on at like 1 o'clock in the morning. Watched it, and I still absolutely loved it. But that's back in the earlier in the interview. Like the stuff we used to watch as a kid. I remember like the Incredible Hulk, obviously, but man, like the Land of the Lost. I was just infatuated with that show for obvious reasons, But then I was so excited at one of the shows, the Comic Cons. I found the season, for Land of the Lost. So I was like,
oh, cool.
I'm totally buying that. Man, I could not get through like a half an episode, man. And I was like, well, maybe we'll try it tomorrow, And like I sat down with my daughter, I was like, you're gonna love this show, and she's like, what is going on, So
Right.
but the trees were all, flopping all around, the cardboard cutouts and shit. Man, it was great.
The Sleestack costumes, or you can see the rubber bending and stuff. Maybe it's better left up here, I guess.
Yeah, and that's what do you do? And that's what the movie magic. I don't know what it is if we're just so jaded where everything now has to look so real, and tweaked,
Right,
GI'd, where it's like, you know, there's nothing left for the imagination sort of thing. Even with toys. I mean, golly, back in the day, a toy had 5 points of articulation. Now it's like, the little knuckles move and it transforms by itself and it makes noise. It
right.
does this. It's like, well, man, what's left for the kid to do? Like really
Yeah,
just put it
you
on.
don't need imagination with that thing.
Yep. So
Well, we're an hour in.
already?
Yeah.
All right. Well, I got 3 hours left. So no, man, it was
uh,
it was fun. Yeah, we'll have to do a round two or whatever,
yeah.
another time.
Maybe get a round table with Dave.
Oh gosh, that'd be cool.
That'd be 8 hours,
I know, right?
and half of it would be Kiss.
That's funny.
All right, man. Well, I guess we'll call it here.
Okay,
This
man.
was a lot of fun.
Absolutely, brother.
Uh,
Yep, I appreciate it.
is there a place people can look up your toy dump? You got a storefront coming soon, or
We'll see. So we'll see. Yeah, that'll be like part two. I don't want to jinx anything, but hopefully by the end of the year we'll have it going. So we'll see.
all right, man. Well, thanks a lot,
All
brother.
right, man. Yep. Have a good one, brother. Take care.
Take care.